Hi there and welcome to another Python video. In this video we're going to take a look at the itertools.compress function. Now the compress function, it takes in two arguments. The first one is an iterable, a list or a set or any kind of sequence, even a string would work. And the second argument is a mask. And we're going to cover what a mask is in this video. But basically what this will do is the result of this will return only elements in the iterable for which the associated mask value is true. So as an example here, I've got a couple of things to show. There's the people. This is a list containing Larry, David and Jeff Green. And we have a mask containing true and false. Now the result of passing the people array and the mask to the itertools.compress function would be to return simply the elements within people which have the associated element in the mask being true, and you can see that that's true for Larry David only. Jeff Green in the associated mask is false, therefore the resulting list that's returned by itertools.compress has only Larry David in this case. Now that's just a toy example. Let's get some coding done. I've imported itertools here and I'm going to create a couple of lists. Now the first list is the languages containing some programming languages, and the second list is a skill mask. And the skill mask can be thought of as, like, think of that as what programming languages do I know or do you know. You can fill that out yourself if you want. For me, I know Python and JavaScript quite well. They're my two main languages, so those are true, and I also have a bit of experience with Java and Golang. The rest are false, so the mask elements that are false will not be returned by itertools.compress. So if we jump straight into it, let me just list that out. If I call the compress function, we'll pass in the iterable, which is languages, and we'll pass in the skill mask. And if what the resulting list that's returned from that statement is, it contains only the elements in the original list, languages, which are true in the mask. And that's quite a useful function to know about in Python. Itertools.compress, it essentially lets you pick out the elements in a list that have truthy values, whether it's true or it's the number 1. Falsy values like 0, an empty string, and of course the boolean false, they will not be returned. So that's how to use compress in a basic way. What I can do is, instead of converting that to a list, I could use the for loop to iterate over it. So for language in itertools.compress, you can simply, I could print out an F statement, an F string, and I could say I know language, and that'll give me the languages that I personally know in this case out of that list. And that's how you do that. And I could also reverse this. I'm going to copy this code, and let's say instead of I want to print out the ones I don't know, we can still use compress for this, but I need to negate everything. So I will say, instead of skill mask, I will negate everything and say not, let's say x, not x for x in the skill mask. And I will replace the print statement and I'll say I don't know this language. And that gives me all the elements which I don't know. So these originally have false values in the mask, but when I negate everything, they become true values. Therefore, that's what comes out of the itertools.compress function. Okay, and that's a basic example. We can also use another toy example. Let's say we wanted to select random lowercase ASCII letters. So I'm going to bring a couple of libraries in, the string package and the random package. Let's get the lowercase letters, and you can get that with the string module's ASCII lowercase property. So if I look at that, you get the lowercase letters. If we want to get a random selection of these letters, what I could do is I could use compress here, itertools.compress, and if I pass the letters as the first argument, what would the second argument be? Well, I've imported the random module, so that's a clue. I want to say random.randint 0 and 1, and I'll explain this statement in a minute, and I'm going to do that for each letter in the list. So I'm going to keep a range of the length of the letters, which will be 26, and for each letter I'm going to return a random integer between it's going to be 0 or 1, and I'm going to return a list comprehension here. So maybe that's a little bit confusing, but that should return a compress object. And if I list that out, it's quite a long statement now, I'm getting a random selection of letters. Only, remember, compress the second argument. If it's 1, that means it's truthy. If it's 0, that means it's false, so it won't be returned. And since it's random over the range of the length of the lowercase letters, that means we get a random selection of lowercase letters. And if I run this again, because it's random, we'll get a different set of letters, and that will happen every time that this is executed. So that's another way to use the random module in association with itertools.compress. If we have a random mask, we can randomly pluck elements out of a list, and in this case it's the ASCII lowercase characters. Okay, and I finally want to show you just a quick thing in Numpy. As usual, there's some additional content here. It's not necessary if you're not interested in Numpy. I could use Numpy to create these masks as well, and Numpy has let's use a randint function to generate some random integers. And this syntax here means it's random integers between 0 and 10, and we want 5 of them. So that will give me 5 random integers in a Numpy ND array. So let's print that out so we can keep it for future reference. And what we can do in Numpy, we can create similar types of masks. I can say, let's say in this case, give me a mask where all array elements that are greater than 5. This won't actually do anything except return a Numpy array of true and false values, you can see here. And in this particular array, we have random numbers. The first 3 are 1, which means, obviously, are those elements greater than 5? The answer to that is no, so those return false. 9 is greater than 5, so the fourth element's true, and the final element's 3, which is also not greater than 5. So we have a Numpy array of 4 false values and 1 true value. And if I use that mask to index into the array, what you'll see is, in this case, obviously the numbers have changed because it's we're using Numpy's random module here. But what we get in the original list here, all elements less than or equal to 5 actually, have been removed. So the 1 is gone, and the 3 and the 2 at the end are gone. We're just left with 9 and 8, and that's because we used a true and false mask in order to do that. And we can actually, so if I print that out, and Numpy also has this syntax for negating a mask. So let me just print out the mask again. And the tilde operator, which is that operator there, that can be used to negate a mask. So that'll invert the true and false values, as you can see here. And that's very useful as well. So if we wanted all elements that are less than or equal to 5 rather than greater than 5, we can simply do that in Numpy, and that'll give us those. So we get in the original, when we don't negate the mask, we only get 8 in this case. That's the only element greater than 5. When we negate that mask, we get all other elements. So that's how you do that in Numpy. And of course, there are many other operations that can be done, but this isn't really a Numpy video. I'm going to make a series on Numpy later on. For now, I'd like to thank you for watching, and if you have any comments or questions, please let me know. Thank you. Bye.